Welcome back, Rare Coin Insider. Imagine reaching into your pocket, pulling out a small, ordinary-looking penny, and realizing that this tiny piece of copper could potentially be worth an astonishing amount of money, far beyond what most people could ever imagine. And today we are diving deep into the fascinating story of the 1 cent USA 1994 coin, a coin that most people overlook every single day. Yet under certain rare conditions, it has captured the attention of collectors, historians, and treasure hunters around the world, creating a wave of curiosity and excitement that continues to grow even today, because hidden within its simple design lies a combination of history, craftsmanship, and rare variations that can turn this everyday coin into something truly extraordinary. The 1994 penny belongs to one of the longest-running coin series in United States history, and that alone already gives it a sense of legacy and importance, because pennies have been part of American currency since the late 18th century, evolving over time in both design and composition, reflecting the economic and cultural changes of the nation. And by the time 1994 arrived, the penny had already gone through several transformations, eventually settling into the iconic Lincoln cent design that people recognize instantly, making it one of the most familiar coins in the world. Yet familiarity often causes people to ignore its hidden potential. Now, when we talk about the 1994 penny, the first thing to understand is its physical characteristics, because every detail matters when determining its value, starting with its weight, which is approximately 2.5 grams. Since by 1982 the composition of pennies had shifted from mostly copper to a zinc core with a thin copper plating, and this change was made due to rising copper prices, meaning that the 1994 penny is not made of solid copper like older coins, but rather a combination that gives it its distinct lightweight feel, and if you were to hold it in your hand, you would notice how light it feels compared to earlier pennies. Yet this simple detail becomes incredibly important when identifying rare errors or unusual variants. The diameter of the coin is about 19.05 millimeters, maintaining the standard size that has been consistent for decades, and its thickness is roughly 1.52 millimeters, giving it that classic coin shape that fits perfectly in everyday transactions. But again, these measurements are not just random facts, because collectors often use precise tools to measure coins, searching for slight deviations that could indicate minting errors, and sometimes those tiny imperfections can increase a coin's value dramatically. Now let's talk about the design, because this is where the artistry and symbolism come into play, and on the front side, also known as the obverse, you will find the portrait of Abraham Lincoln, the 16th President of the United States, a figure known for his leadership during one of the most challenging periods in American history, and this design has been used on pennies since 1909, making it one of the longest-running coin designs ever, and the image itself was created by Victor David Brenner, whose initials, BDB, can be found on certain versions of the coin, though they are usually very small and placed subtly, adding another layer of intrigue for collectors. Surrounding Lincoln's portrait, you will notice the inscriptions, "In God We Trust," at the top, "Liberty," to the left, and the year, 1994, to the right. And these inscriptions are not just decorative elements, they carry deep meaning and historical significance, representing the values and identity of the nation, and the placement of these words has remained consistent over the years, creating a sense of continuity and tradition that collectors appreciate deeply. On the reverse side of the coin, you will find the Lincoln Memorial, a structure that honors Abraham Lincoln and symbolizes unity and perseverance, and this design was introduced in 1959 to commemorate the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth, replacing the earlier wheat design that many collectors still admire today. And if you look closely at the Lincoln Memorial on the 1994 penny, you can actually see a tiny representation of Lincoln sitting inside the monument, which is an incredible level of detail for such a small coin. And it is details like this that make coin collecting so fascinating, because there is always something new to discover, even in something you may have seen 1,000 times. Above the memorial, you will see the words, United States of America, and E pluribus unum, while below it is the denomination, 1 cent, clearly indicating the coin's value. But what is truly interesting is how these elements come together to create a balance between simplicity and complexity, making the coin both functional and artistic at the same time. Another important aspect of the 1994 penny is the mint mark, which tells you where the coin was produced. And in 1994, pennies were minted in 3 main locations: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, with Philadelphia coins typically having no mint mark, Denver coins marked with a small d, and San Francisco coins marked with an s. Although San Francisco pennies are usually proof coins made specifically for collectors rather than general circulation, and each mint location can produce slight variations in the coin, which can influence its rarity and value. Now here is where things start to get really interesting, because not all 1994 pennies are created equal, and while most of them are only worth their face value, there are certain rare versions and error coins that have sold for significantly higher amounts, sometimes reaching thousands or even millions under the right conditions, and this is where the idea of a $6 million value comes into play, because extreme rarity combined with collector demand can push prices to unbelievable levels. One of the key factors that can make a 1994 penny incredibly valuable is the presence of minting errors, and these errors can occur during the production process in many different ways, such as double strikes, off-center strikes, or even wrong planchet errors where the coin is struck on a blank mint for a different denomination, and these mistakes are not supposed to happen, which is exactly why collectors find them so valuable, because they represent something unique and unexpected, turning an ordinary coin into a one-of-a-kind piece. Additionally, condition plays a massive role in determining value, because a coin that has never been circulated and remains in pristine condition, often referred to as mint state, can be worth significantly more than one that has been worn down over time, and collectors use grading systems to evaluate coins, carefully examining every scratch, mark, and detail to determine its overall quality, and even a slight difference in grade can mean a huge difference in price. As we continue exploring the story of the 1994 penny, you begin to realize that what seems like a simple coin is actually a complex piece of history, art, and economics combined into one small object, and the idea that such a coin could potentially be worth millions adds an element of mystery and excitement that keeps people searching through their spare change, hoping to discover that one rare piece that could change everything. And this is just the beginning of understanding the true value and rarity of the 1994 penny, because there are deeper details, hidden variations, and fascinating collector stories that take this coin to an entirely different level, revealing why it continues to capture attention even decades after it was first minted. As we go deeper into the world of the 1994 1-cent coin, the real excitement begins when we start uncovering the hidden variations and rare minting anomalies that transform this seemingly ordinary coin into something collectors obsess over, because while billions of pennies were produced in 1994, only a microscopic fraction of them carry the unique characteristics that elevate their value far beyond a single cent, and understanding these rare differences is what separates a casual observer from a serious collector who knows exactly what to look for. One of the most talked about features among collectors is the possibility of double die errors, and this happens when the coin's design is accidentally stamped twice in slightly different positions during the minting process, creating a subtle but noticeable doubling effect on the letters or numbers, and in some rare 1994 pennies, this doubling can be seen in the date or in the inscriptions like Liberty or In God We Trust, and although to an untrained eye it may look like a minor imperfection, to collectors it is a signature of rarity, a fingerprint that makes that particular coin stand out from millions of others, and depending on the clarity and strength of the doubling, the value can increase dramatically. Another fascinating error type that collectors search for is the off-center strike, where the coin is not perfectly aligned during the minting process, resulting in part of the design being missing or shifted to one side. And the more off-center the coin is while still retaining a visible date, the more valuable it can become, because it clearly demonstrates a minting mistake while still allowing the coin to be identified. And these kinds of errors are not just rare, they are visually striking, making them highly desirable in the collector market. Then, there are die cracks and cuds, which occur when the metal dies used to strike the coins develop cracks or breakages over time, and these imperfections get transferred onto the coins themselves, creating raised lines or blobs of metal that were never part of the original design. And each of these marks tells a story about the life of the die and the moment the coin was created, almost like a snapshot of the minting process frozen in time. And for collectors, owning such a coin is like owning a piece of that hidden history. But perhaps one of the most intriguing possibilities is the idea of transitional errors or wrong planchet errors, where a coin is struck on a blank intended for a different denomination or composition, and although extremely rare, if a 1994 penny were discovered struck on an unusual planchet, its value could skyrocket instantly, because it would represent a major deviation from the standard minting process, something that should never have happened, and yet somehow did, making it incredibly valuable and unique. Now beyond errors, another critical factor that influences the value of a 1994 penny is its mint mark and production numbers, because different mints produce different quantities of coins, and while Philadelphia and Denver minted billions of pennies that year, the San Francisco Mint produced proof coins specifically for collectors, and these proof coins are struck with special dies and polished blanks, resulting in a mirror-like finish and sharper details, making them visually stunning compared to regular circulation coins. And while proof coins are generally more common among collectors, certain rare variations or high-grade examples can still command impressive prices. Condition, as mentioned earlier, becomes even more important when dealing with these proof coins, because collectors seek perfection, and coins graded at the highest levels, such as MS-67 or higher, are extremely rare, especially for older coins that may have been stored improperly or handled over time, and achieving such a high grade requires the coin to have flawless surfaces, sharp details, and no visible signs of wear. And when a 1994 penny meets these criteria, its value can rise significantly, sometimes reaching hundreds or thousands of dollars depending on the demand. Now let's address the idea of the $6 million value, because this is where things can become both exciting and misunderstood, as not every 1994 penny is worth millions, and in fact, the vast majority are still only worth 1 cent. But in the world of coin collecting, there are moments when a unique combination of rarity, error, historical significance, and collector demand can push a coin's value to extraordinary levels. And while a confirmed sale of a standard 1994 penny for $6 million would require extremely rare and specific circumstances, the possibility itself fuels the imagination of collectors and keeps the hunt alive, because all it takes is one discovery to change everything. What truly drives these extreme valuations is the psychology of collecting, where rarity creates demand, and demand creates value. And when a coin is believed to be one of a kind or part of an extremely limited group, collectors are willing to pay incredible amounts to own it, not just for its monetary worth, but for the prestige and uniqueness it represents. And this is why auctions can sometimes reach astonishing prices, as collectors compete against each other for the rarest pieces. Another layer to this story is the role of grading companies, which authenticate and evaluate coins, providing an official grade that helps determine their market value, and these companies use strict standards and expert analysis to ensure accuracy, because even a slight misjudgment can significantly impact a coin's price, and once a coin is graded and encapsulated, it becomes easier to trade and sell in the collector market, as buyers have confidence in its authenticity and condition. Interestingly, the 1994 penny also reflects a period of stability in U.S. coin production, where the design remained consistent and the focus was on efficiency and mass production. Yet within this system, small imperfections still occurred, creating those rare and valuable variations that collectors seek today. And this contrast between mass production and rare uniqueness is what makes coin collecting so fascinating, because it shows how even in a highly controlled process, unexpected results can emerge. And as more people become aware of these possibilities, the search for rare coins has expanded beyond traditional collectors to everyday individuals who begin checking their spare change, old jars, and forgotten collections, hoping to find that one hidden gem. And the 1994 penny has become part of this larger narrative, a symbol of the idea that treasure can be hiding in plain sight, waiting to be discovered by someone who knows what to look for. But the story does not end here, because there are still deeper insights into collector strategies, real market examples, and the most valuable known variations that take the mystery of the 1994 penny even further, revealing just how far its value can truly go under the right circumstances. As we move even further into the fascinating world of the 1994 1-cent coin, the story becomes less about simple identification and more about strategy, experience, and the real-world behavior of collectors and markets, because understanding value is not just about what a coin is, but about who wants it, how rare it truly is, and the exact moment it appears in front of the right buyer. And this is where the difference between an ordinary penny and a potentially life-changing discovery becomes incredibly real. Collectors who specialize in Lincoln cents often spend years studying minute details, training their eyes to recognize subtle differences that most people would never notice. And when it comes to the 1994 penny, they look beyond the obvious features and begin focusing on micro details such as die polish lines, strike sharpness, luster quality, and even the tiniest inconsistencies in lettering. Because these elements can reveal whether a coin came from an early die state, a worn die, or a damaged die, and each of these factors contributes to its uniqueness and potential value. One of the most powerful concepts in coin collecting is population rarity, which refers to how many coins of a specific type and grade actually exist, and sometimes a coin that is technically common can become extremely valuable if only a few examples have survived in near-perfect condition, and this is especially true for coins like the 1994 penny, which were produced in massive numbers but rarely preserved carefully, meaning that finding one in pristine, untouched condition decades later is much harder than it might seem. And when such a coin appears, it immediately attracts attention from serious collectors. There have been cases in the coin market where seemingly ordinary pennies have sold for astonishing amounts simply because they were graded at the highest possible levels. And while most 1994 pennies will never reach such heights, the possibility remains for exceptional examples, particularly those with flawless surfaces, strong strikes, and full original luster. And when combined with a rare error or unusual characteristic, the value can increase exponentially, creating the kind of headline-worthy sales that spark widespread interest. Another important aspect is the role of auctions, where the true value of a coin is often revealed, because unlike fixed pricing, auctions allow collectors to compete, sometimes driving prices far beyond expectations, especially when a coin is perceived as rare or unique, and this competitive environment can lead to dramatic results, where a coin that might have been valued modestly suddenly becomes the center of intense bidding, pushing its price to levels that reflect both its rarity and the passion of the collectors involved. Now imagine a scenario where a 1994 penny with a highly visible double die error, combined with an off-center strike and preserved in near-perfect condition, appears at auction. Such a coin would represent an extraordinary combination of rarity factors, making it incredibly desirable. And while the idea of a $6 million valuation may seem extreme, it is not entirely impossible in the world of rare collectibles, where unique items have been known to reach unbelievable prices when the right conditions align. Beyond the financial aspect, there is also a deep emotional and historical connection that collectors feel toward coins, because each coin is a tangible link to the past, a small piece of history that has traveled through time, passing through countless hands and witnessing countless moments. And the 1994 penny, while relatively modern compared to older coins, still carries its own story, representing a specific era in American history, a time of economic growth and technological advancement. And owning such a coin can feel like holding a piece of that moment in time. Another layer of intrigue comes from the stories of discoveries, where people have found valuable coins in the most unexpected places, from old jars and piggy banks to inherited collections, and even everyday pocket change. And these stories fuel the imagination, making people wonder if they too might stumble upon something extraordinary. And the 1994 penny often appears in these narratives as a reminder that value is not always obvious, and sometimes the most valuable items are the ones we overlook. Collectors also pay close attention to the concept of eye appeal, which goes beyond technical grading and focuses on how visually attractive a coin is, because even two coins with the same grade can have very different levels of appeal, and factors such as color, toning, and overall presentation can influence a collector's willingness to pay a higher price. And a beautifully preserved 1994 penny with rich copper color and brilliant luster can stand out significantly, making it more desirable, even if it is not technically the rarest example. In addition to individual collectors, there are also institutions and investors who participate in the coin market, viewing rare coins as alternative assets. And while this approach is more common with older and historically significant coins, the possibility of modern coins, like the 1994 penny gaining value, adds another dimension to the market, as people begin to see potential not just in history, but in rarity itself, regardless of age. The concept of grading scales, such as the Sheldon scale, becomes crucial here, ranging from poor condition all the way to perfect mint state, and achieving the highest grades requires not only an exceptional coin, but also proper preservation, because even minor handling can introduce tiny scratches or marks that lower the grade, and this is why serious collectors often store their coins in protective holders, keeping them away from moisture, air, and physical contact to maintain their condition over time. And then there is the thrill of the hunt, which is perhaps the most captivating aspect of all, because unlike many other collectibles, coins are still in circulation, meaning that anyone, anywhere, could potentially find something valuable, and this accessibility makes coin collecting uniquely exciting, as it combines the possibility of discovery with the satisfaction of knowledge, rewarding those who take the time to learn and observe carefully. As the legend of the 1994 penny continues to grow, it becomes clear that its true value lies not just in the rare cases where it might be worth thousands or even millions, but in the journey it represents, the curiosity it sparks, and the connection it creates between people and history. And while most of these coins will remain ordinary, the possibility that one might not be is enough to keep the search alive, inspiring collectors and everyday individuals alike to look a little closer at the coins they carry every day. And yet, there is still more to uncover, including practical tips on how to identify valuable 1994 pennies yourself, the exact signs that could indicate a rare find, and the steps you should take if you believe you have discovered something extraordinary, because knowing what to do next can make all the difference between a simple coin and a life-changing opportunity. Now, as we reach the final part of this deep exploration into the 1994 1-cent USA coin, the focus shifts from mystery and value speculation into practical knowledge, because knowing how to actually identify a potentially valuable coin is what turns curiosity into real opportunity, and this is where most people either miss their chance or discover something truly remarkable hidden in plain sight. The first and most important step in evaluating a 1994 penny is careful visual inspection under good lighting, because small details matter more than anything else, and collectors often use magnifying tools to examine the coin closely, looking at the date, lettering, and edges with precision, because even the slightest irregularity can indicate a rare error or unusual strike. And the key is to slow down and observe rather than rush, because valuable coins do not always reveal themselves immediately. One of the easiest things to check is the date clarity and alignment, because in genuine error coins, the numbers may appear doubled, slightly shifted, or uneven, and while normal wear can sometimes create illusions of doubling, true double die errors have a distinct sharpness and consistency that cannot be mistaken once you learn to recognize them. And this is why experienced collectors always compare suspicious coins with verified examples before making conclusions. Next, you should examine the coin's surface condition, because a 1994 penny in uncirculated or mint state condition has a completely different appearance compared to one that has been heavily used, and mint state coins will have a smooth, almost glowing surface with no signs of wear on Lincoln's face or the high points of the memorial. And this level of preservation alone can significantly increase interest among collectors, even without errors. Another critical step is checking for mint marks, because a simple D or absence of a mint mark can help you trace the coin's origin, and while mint marks alone do not guarantee value, they become extremely important when combined with other rare features, especially when evaluating large collections where specific mints may have produced slightly different quality strikes. And understanding this helps narrow down which coins deserve closer attention. You should also pay attention to the edges and overall strike quality, because weak strikes, misalignments, or unusual textures can sometimes indicate production anomalies, and while not all of these are valuable, they help build a full picture of how the coin was made, and in rare cases, multiple small irregularities can combine to create a highly desirable specimen. Now here is where the reality of the market becomes important, because while the idea of a $6 million 1994 penny captures attention and fuels excitement, actual confirmed sales at such extreme levels would require an extraordinary combination of factors, including a unique, previously unknown error, flawless preservation, and overwhelming collector demand. And while this is extremely unlikely, the coin market has proven time and again that rare exceptions do exist, and value is ultimately determined by what someone is willing to pay at the right moment. There are documented cases of coins selling for hundreds of thousands or even millions when they are truly one of a kind, especially in older series or historically significant pieces. And while the 1994 penny is relatively modern, its massive production volume actually creates the opposite effect, making exceptional errors even more noticeable and desirable when they do appear. Because rarity is not about age alone, but about how few examples exist in a collectible condition. For anyone hoping to find a valuable 1994 penny, the most practical advice is simple but powerful: learn before you search, because knowledge is the real key that unlocks hidden value, and without it, even the rarest coin might look ordinary, and this is why collectors spend years studying reference images, grading standards, and auction results, training themselves to recognize opportunities that others overlook. If you ever believe you have found a rare version of this coin, the next step is professional evaluation, because grading services can authenticate and certify your coin, confirming whether it is truly an error, its condition level, and its potential market value. And this certification becomes essential if you ever plan to sell it through auction houses or private collectors, as it builds trust and ensures accurate pricing. But beyond money and market value, there is something deeper about coins like the 1994 penny, because they remind us that value is often hidden in plain sight, and what we ignore every day might actually carry unexpected significance, and that idea alone is what keeps collectors searching, examining, and hoping for that one special discovery that changes everything. In the end, the 1 cent USA 1994 coin is not just a piece of currency, It is a symbol of possibility, a reminder that even the smallest object can carry hidden worth. And while most of these pennies will remain ordinary, the dream of finding an extraordinary one continues to inspire millions of people around the world, turning everyday pocket change into a potential treasure hunt. So the next time you see a simple penny resting in your hand, take a moment to look closer, because history, rarity, and value might be hiding in the smallest details, waiting quietly to be discovered. And sometimes, the difference between 1 cent and something far greater is simply the eye that knows where to look.